tuned in before, this is a show where I, Deliso Chaponda, discuss funny things in the world. Sometimes I discuss depressing things. I make them funny for your entertainment. Welcome to the show. Yesterday's show was a very well considered episode which I spent hours writing. Today is entirely the opposite. Okay? Today is just going to be a bunch of thoughts, a few of them funny, that I had. Because yesterday I was talking about Black Lives Matter. I was talking about what's been going on in America since the death of George Floyd. Today I'm on the same sort of theme, but I'm just going to talk about riots, right? I'm going to talk about riots, but in a far less analytical way. I'm going to talk about riots I have been a part of in my life. I have been in part of one riot and I have watched another riot. So I'm going to talk about those experiences I had and funny things that happened in those. Then I'll talk about some of the strangest, craziest, bizarre riots we've had in human history. I mean, that's pretty much the show you have waiting for you today. Also today I will actually be responding to the chat room, so do say hello. I just turned on the chat. How are you doing, Jenny Craddock? Good to have you in the room. Hello everybody. In fact, let me see if I put that there. No, it's in the way, so I'll put that there, and I only need to tilt my head a little to look at people's messages. So what I'm going to do is I am going to do a few jokes, probably just the jokes about my experiences of being in riots, and then we're going to have another section where I chat to the people in the chat room, and then I will chat about some of the weirdest riots in history. Before I get started, Robin Green says everybody should march on the White House, grab a TV and computer on the way there. Trump out. Did you just see what Trump said? I haven't even written anything about it, but literally just on my timeline I saw he was being interviewed and he was being asked about the protesters, and he was being asked about, you know, what he thought about black people. He was like, MAGA loves the black people. It's just absurd. I can't even write jokes sometimes. He just says things like, make America great again, we love the black people. We love the black people. Excellent. Good. Well, I'm glad he loves us. Excellent. Hello, Tricky Fun, and hello from Greece, and hello everybody. So let's get started. So before I get to talking about my sort of experiences with rioting in my life, the first thing I wanted to say is there are a lot of misconceptions about riots, which you hear all the time, right? One of them is this one, which quite a lot of people, including Trump, have been saying, is that, you know, these riots have been professionally organized. There are few people who are driving all these people. And I'm just like, wow, you cannot professionally organize a riot. You just can't. This is chaos. You can't organize chaos, right? You can't just... Can you imagine if you're hanging out with a few friends of yours and you're all discussing what you should do for the weekend, and they're like, hey, let's go bowling. Hey, let's go to a restaurant. What is that? Let's go loot some stores, people. Let's just rise up and smash some stuff up. There's so many things that contribute to causing a riot, and it's like an explosion of pent-up pressure, and the idea that it could be one mastermind deviously going, ooh, let me control these people like puppet masters, is so bizarre. Actually, I even believe conspiracy theories more than the idea of one person controlling these people like chess pieces. And then the other one is when people talk about how, oh, these are criminals doing it, it's pure criminality, they've decided to do this. And I'm like, if you're gonna be a criminal, riots are a terrible way to achieve your crime, right? I know there's chaos and there are people who take the opportunity, but in terms of if you were planning a heist and you're like, okay, how are we going to break into the jewelry store? Okay, we could tunnel, or maybe we could, bribe someone and get the code to the alarm, and then one of the people planning is like, or what we could do is we could organize a riot and then smash the windows in and go in and grab it before the police with the tear gas come. It's just, I think people want it to be more simple than it is. It's much more complicated. But anyway, I'll get to that later. Let me start with my personal experience, because I have been in riots. Oh yeah. First riot I was ever in, I was a little kid, So I remember it vaguely, but I was a little kid in Malawi. This was in the 90s, and this was when Kamuzu Banda, we had a dictator. We had a president. He had declared himself president for life, right? And he was becoming very unpopular because Malawi was struggling and there was a lot of oppression and things like that. And there were riots which happened just before he was forced out of power, right? And this is what I'm saying, it had been pressure building. People had been frustrated for years and years and years. People were angry, and then one thing happens and another thing happens, and people get more and more frustrated, and then there's a trigger, boom! It's like, that little hole cracking through the dike which is holding back all the water, and then it just explodes out. And so I was young. I don't know, was I 10? Was I 11? I don't even know, but I was really young, right? I was really young, and rioting started, right? And my memories of the rioting, I've talked about this briefly on my radio show, but this is going to be a more complete explanation, is I vaguely understood what was going on because I was reading the papers, right? My brothers had been talking about it. One of my brothers was in the newspaper because there was a truck of people demonstrating and he was on the truck. So it started out as peaceful demonstrations against the regime. And usually these things start that way, right? You can't persuade people, hey, let's go right, but you can persuade people to go to a peaceful demonstration, as has happened in the US. 90% of the demonstrations are peaceful, okay? So anyway, there were demonstrations going on. I vaguely understood that the guy in power wasn't necessarily a good guy, but in a kid sort of way. Because if you're trying to explain oppression to a little kid, right? It's not like he's Darth Vader. We don't have many Darth Vaders in the world. So you're trying to explain, well, we've got no freedom of speech. And I'm like, I can talk. But my parents, I remember them having to try and break down to me in a kid sort of way of looking at it why a dictator is bad. It's like, how you don't like it when we send you to go to sleep early? And he's like, yeah. Well, he does that to all of us because he says, no public gatherings. So they do that to all of us. And I remember being like, so you're a dictator, which is not what my parents were trying to get out of it. But yes, parents are dictators. Kids are all oppressed minorities. Rise up, children of the world, rise up. But either way, there'd been demonstrations, and I don't even know what the spark was. Sometimes it's hard to trace down what was the spark that made that day's demonstration turn into riots. But suddenly there was riots, and my brothers heard out about it, and they were so excited. And we could hear like tear gas in the background. And tear gas doesn't sound like tear gas. It sounds like guns, right? So in my head, I was just hearing all these guns, and my brothers were so excited, and they were like, hey, we need to go check it out. And I was like, why should we go? We're in the house, we're safe, where are we gonna go? But my brother was like, we're going, right? And they were gonna leave me in the house alone, and I was more scared of being in the house alone than going with them. So I remember going with them, being a little kid, and it was crazy. It was like, it was like people running around the streets, there were police shooting tear gas, and there was a lot of looting. People were smashing windows, people grabbing stuff, and my little child brain just remembers one or two things, and the clearest memory I have was hilarious, because there was one of these stores, which is like PTC, it's like a grocery store, right? And people had dashed in, and they started grabbing stuff. They started grabbing all this stuff, and I distinctly remember they were military men with guns, right? So they were soldiers who were on the side of the people demonstrating, right? And there was one of the soldiers who was encouraging people, go take stuff, go take stuff, go take stuff, right? And I remember people going in, some people grabbing televisions, some people grabbing all these things, and this woman came out with a little tub of yogurt. And this guy got so angry at her. He was like, is that all you took? Go take something bigger. Go take something bigger. And when I talked about this in my radio show, I made up a punchline that she went in and she came out with 2 yogurts, and then he got angry, sent her back in, and she came out with 3 yogurts. But really, all that happened was he got angry with her that she just came out with 1 yogurt and sent her back in, which I thought was hilarious. And a lot of people also are like, why is there always looting involved? I tell you what's interesting thing is, like, now this isn't a joke. This is part of the whole problem when you look at things like rioting and demonstrations, even just peaceful, non-violent protests. There has to be disruption for you to have an effect, right? When people do non-violent protest, one of the worst things that can happen is you don't make a difference, people can ignore you. You know what I mean? You know, in their World Trade Organization demonstrations, they have an area for them to protest and they just ignore them. So it makes no difference. If you look at the non-violent protests which worked in the past, it's when it was like a mass sit-in or it was like a strike. So it causes a disruption to the society. So anyway, that is why looting often works, because it's terrible. It often ripples. I'm not saying it's a good thing, but it works because it upsets people, and the government have to do something to stop it because they've got business owners yelling at them saying, sort this crap out. So anyway, so that was the first memory I have, which was a crazy memory. Before I go to the next one, let me look at the chat. Okay. Hello from Ghana, David Curtis Minta. Good to have you in the room. Sam Mark says at least the British queue when they loot stores. You say that. My next example is actually in the UK, and there was no queuing on that day. Hello. Oh, people just got shot into space. So that happened today, Harry Araka. I will check out what happened with SpaceX when I finished this show. So I've not watched it yet, but I'll catch up on YouTube, I am sure. Excellent. Right. Hello. What weapons during the riots in Malawi? So when I saw very little of it. When I was a little kid, right? So all I remember is the soldiers had guns, but they weren't shooting anyone, right? And then people were just using like, big sticks and stuff to smash windows. And the police, I remember, were using, you know what? I don't remember. I was too young. So I don't really remember what weapons were involved. But that is a good question, which I should probably ask my brothers, because they were older, so they remember more of this than I do. And in fact, some of my memories are those borrowed memories. You know, when you forget something and then people tell you what happened and then you start to remember it? That's what's really dangerous about old memories, because this is at least 30 years ago. You know what I mean? So I can't say necessarily that my memories of it are entirely reliable, because some of it's my memory, but it's also bolstered by hearing my brothers talk about what happened and then I remember it. So, a very interesting time. You hope the yogurt was microbiotic. I should hope so too. Excellent. And Albert Okari very accurately says Americans looted their land from the natives, taught black violence through slavery, so it's safe to say African Americans learned everything for them. Now that is actually the basis of, we could have a long debate about that, but I see what you're saying and I agree with you 40%, maybe 50%, but you said quite a few things in that. The Kenyan guy who incited violence to burn the White House from his bed sit in a village. I did not know that about that at all. I will look into that. Okay, so let's keep going to the second riot which I witnessed. So I wasn't a part of this one, but this was one which was actually very similar to the current situation. So in 2011 in the UK, there was a case of a person being killed. I think his name was Mark Duggan. I may be wrong. I should have not relied on memory. I should have looked into it, but it was just, it's a memory, so I apologize if I've misidentified the person. But anyway, it was another case like this where it was there was a mass injustice, there was a lot of unrest, a lot of people were angry, a lot of people were upset at what had happened in the UK, and riots began to break out. Now, this was a historic moment because it was one of the first times that people were communicating about where the police were on social media, right? So all the gangs and all the people involved, right, were communicating on social media about where the police were. And in one case, it was revolutionary in that it was allowing them to warn each other, don't go to this area, the police are over here, don't go to this area, another area. But at the same time, social media helped them, but it was also their downfall. Why do I say it was their downfall? Because a lot of these idiots, right, loot stores, right? They loot stores. Oh, I forgot to tell you how I saw this. So I was in Manchester I was in the center of Manchester near the Arndale store, right? And I was just walking along, and we saw a bunch. I was with a woman. It's funny, I don't even remember which woman I was with, but I was with a woman, and we saw a group of people walking towards us with half masks on, right? Sort of like just like a handkerchief, and they were holding like like cricket bats and just makeshift weapons, and there was a whole bunch of them walking towards us. And then I remember one of them just smashed the window. Well, they didn't smash it, but they hit what they were holding against the window of one of the Arndale store, and then loads of them came out of nowhere, right? She did not want to stick around, right? But I had this perverse interest in the chaos, and I wanted to stick around and watch, right? Because I felt safe. They weren't coming at me. We were standing at a place where we could watch them. They couldn't really come. And so she left. How bad a date am I? I'm like, yeah, you fear for your safety. You make your way home. I want to watch this, right? And I stayed and I watched it. And it was really interesting because they were just smashing stuff and they're grabbing stuff and so on. But this is where I say social media was their downfall, right? Because yes, it helped them because they were warning each other during the actual rioting. But the next day, how idiotic were these people? Some of them started posting selfies with them with stuff which they'd looted on social media, like on Facebook or something, saying, hey, I stole this bicycle, ain't it cool? What did they think was gonna happen next? Right? Absolute idiots. And then surprise, surprise, the police just knock on your door and say, hello, I think you may have been involved in some of the looting. So they were propelled forward by social media, and some of them were brought down by their idiocy on social media. I think some people actually think a lot of people don't know how social media works. Do you know what I mean? There's so many times when I think people think they're the only people who see their social media. They think them and their friends are the only people who see social media. They need to teach people. Like, even people who say racist stuff online, right? And then they get fired from their jobs. I'm like, did you not know other people were gonna look? Social media is not a secret. WhatsApp, maybe. Oh, Lord, if WhatsApp ever gets hacked, we're all losing our jobs, let's be honest. I have said everything. I've done every ism. I've said misogynistic stuff. I've said, transphobic stuff. Whatever it is. I make jokes in WhatsApp groups that are entirely inappropriate. I have made fun of every group in horrible ways, and I think, honestly, I don't think anybody's WhatsApp private groups can stand up to public scrutiny. My only hope is if they ever get hacked, they all get hacked, right? Because I think that while everybody's yelling at each other, and also people are being murdered when their girlfriends find out that they've been WhatsApping this person and that, I think the total chaos, I actually would be one of the least offensive, because all I've done is make inappropriate jokes, right? You see me when I know people are watching. So think of all the offensive stuff I've said in the Corona cast and imagine how much more horrific I am on WhatsApp. Oh, less. So anyway, so that was the case. That was the case in the riots. Now, I watched it for maybe 30 minutes, and then the police came, and then I ran because I was like, well, if the police start grabbing people, I fancy that I will be not seen as an innocent bystander. There's a high chance that even though I did not have the scarf, they would think that I am one of the looters, and so I left. Also, this all started with somebody brown being treated badly by the police. So I did not fancy my chances. I was like, I am out of here. And so I did not see what happened next, but I read about it the next day. Okay, so that's that one. Let me see what people have said in the chat. Mark Duggan is correct. Thank you, Tiger. I wasn't sure I remembered it right. Serious question, Robin Green said, can they switch the internet off? Thoughts? Yes. Well, I mean, look, the internet can very much be controlled, and the best case scenario, best way to understand that is consider a place like China, right? China has got a separate internet from the rest of the world because they do not want people who are in China to have access to certain information which they feel is morally wrong or they feel is unacceptable. Also, consider the fact that if you go to some places like, in fact, everywhere in the world, there are certain websites you cannot log on to, right? If you search for certain things, you cannot find it because we consider them criminal unless you're one of the people who knows how to access the dark web, right? Now, depending on where you are, that scale goes up and down. So somewhere like Dubai, you cannot access porn. I don't know why I know this. It's not like I was trying to access porn in Dubai. I just know this, right? I know this, right? So there's some places where you cannot access porn, and then there are other places where you cannot access political things. So that's a dial which can be put up and down, and it is entirely foreseeable that in some situation, some government could just arrange that all websites are not accessible if they felt for some reason it was a national security matter. So yes, I do believe that can happen. And there's lots of terrifying things if you actually consider how much we are dependent on digital things. Imagine all banks were down tomorrow, right? Who's got some cash in their house, right? Who's got some cash in a safe? I often think that is how society gets totally controlled. If somebody could just wipe out all your connection to bank accounts, lots of people have got no backup plan. We'll have to start bartering. I'll have to grab my computer and my video camera and say, I've got a computer, I've got a video camera. Can you give me a bag of beans? Come on. We're very dependent on a lot of things. Is that WKD Blue, says Oliver? Alas, no, this is just water. Natural San Pellegrino water. Excellent. Hello, Gabetia says, sir, this is a Wendy's. I'm sure that is a joke. I am not sure I understand the joke, but thank you for playing. Let's keep going. That wall is you were in China, Emma Yasuhai says, and you have experienced it. That wall is real, sometimes annoying. So what sites can't you access in China, Emma Yasuhai? Do let us know, assuming you're not in China right now. If you're in China right now, don't talk about it. Don't talk about it. I don't want them to come after me. Thank you so much, Shannon Alexander, for appreciating my comedy. Very, very appreciated that you enjoy it. Excellent, excellent. Bye-bye. Games and films. Digital purchases can be remotely deleted. This is entirely true. Right. Okay, let us keep going. So I've talked about the riots which I have seen, and the riots, those are actually the only two riots I've been a part of, and I wasn't actually an active part of either one. One of them, I was just a little kid who'd been dragged along by curious brothers, and the other time I perversely stayed and watched. And I gotta admit, I've got that in me. I don't know if everyone else has got it. I love to watch chaos. When chaos is going down, I find it very hard, even though it's sensible, to leave, right? So if ever I'm in a nightclub and people start fighting, I'm the guy who stays and watches. I don't jump in. I don't want to fight. I have nothing against anyone, but I always stay and watch. If my neighbors are yelling at each other, I'm the guy who listens. I just want to know what's going on. I'm fascinated by chaos. And I think maybe because I'm a very boring individual, right? People often think like, oh, you're a comedian, you must have an exciting life. No, I'm a very boring individual. I spend most of my days writing. Then when life is normal, I travel, I perform at a show, and I'm one of the sort of people who sort of ends up going back to my hotel. My life is very boring. I'm not a very dramatic person. I don't yell at anyone. I'm one of those people who takes a lot to get me angry. And even when I get angry, I kind of bottle it in. I've never punched anyone since high school. And so I kind of, when there's actual chaos going on, I really want to watch it vicariously. I'm like, what happened? What's going down? So I have witnessed it. And then also, I will admit, I've been in a few cases where it was like one bad moment away from turning into a riot, right? especially when I was in university, I used to take part in a lot of demonstrations. This was in Canada. We demonstrated against Canada's role in Haiti. We demonstrated against a bunch of different things, right? And I always remember that a lot of those situations were very volatile because there were a lot of heated people. And I was very impressed that the police were very measured in how they related to us, and they listened to our anger, and it did not escalate. But a lot of those situations, all it would have taken is one person to throw a bottle, right? And the police to respond in an aggressive way, and then it would have spiraled out of control. And it didn't, thankfully. So the other cases, just where I was part of a demonstration. Okay, so now we're going to get to the crazy, strange riots in history, which should be quite fun. I will say a big thanks to Finlay Pilcher for giving me a donation. That is very, very appreciated. I forgot to even say, anybody who wants to donate to the CoronaCast comedy show, keep it coming out. There's a link up at the top, kofi.com/Daliso Chaponda, or if you're on YouTube, you can just click and, as Finlay did, give me a sticker. So thank you so much. Very, very appreciated for the support. Okay. God, the character calls himself God, says, life gone downhill since BGT. Actually, no. My life has gone very well since BGT. Now, of course, Corona has meant that I am not performing to a live audience, and it's just me in a kitchen right now. But actually, up to 2 months ago, I would say my life was going magnificently. I had just recorded an episode of QI. I was on a sold out UK tour. I was balling, man. I was doing well. And then all of that just ground to a halt. And I can't complain because I know other people's lives all ground to a halt. But I appreciate the sympathy, God. I wish you were really God. Wouldn't it be great if God wasn't the handle? It was actually God just deciding to watch my thing and say, hey, Daliso, life's gone down. Okay, let's keep going. Let's talk about some of the strange riots in history. The first strange riot in history is the eggnog riot of 1826. This is true, an eggnog. Right. Now, if you're not aware of eggnog, this is an alcoholic beverage which people drink around Christmas. So there was a ban of alcohol, right? So there's a ban of alcohol in America at certain university. I'm a very bad researcher. I didn't write down the name of the the military academy where this happened. Any of you can research this if you are interested. But either way, they had banned alcohol at this military academy. And some of the students smuggled in eggnog, right? Started drinking it, bloop, bloop, having some fun. And then when their faculty members tried to end the party, the barracks erupted into chaos. People started yelling. People started throwing things. People started smashing things. Someone beat a barracks monitor with a log. How angry are you that you grab a log? What? I don't understand why there was a log there anyway. Maybe he grabbed it from the fireplace and beat someone in the head. But either way, it spiraled out of control from drinking eggnog. Now, I've got to say that maybe booze is what has been missing from our more recent riots, right? Imagine in every case of resistance, booze was involved. Now, I'm not saying it should be like in these eggnog riots where people were getting drunk and it escalated the violence. I actually think booze could be a way to de-escalate the violence. Yes, what you got to do is the next time you go on a protest, just take some bottles of champagne, pass them around, just offer them as aperitifs to people like that. I actually think I would respond to a boozed up demonstration. Right? I love meat. And when these meat is murder people are demonstrating, I'm never really responsive to what they're saying. It just makes me want to go have a steak. But if they were trying to bribe me, if they were saying, come on, don't have meat. Instead of having meat, have a shandy. I might be inclined to, be swayed. So that is my suggestion, that we emulate the people of the military barracks and have a little bit of eggnog on our demonstrations, right? Next up, right, another crazy one. Oh, Michaela Evans asked, the panda has a candle, what's he up to? Now, actually, usually the panda is a menace, an alcoholic, but actually, you know what? The panda told me that he wanted to show solidarity for Black Lives Matter, and so the panda has lit a candle, even though the panda is flammable, and it's probably a bad idea for the panda to be near an open flame. The panda insisted, right? Only thing we disagreed with is the panda said that, because of there's been too much police brutality against us, me and my people. And I was like, what are you talking about, you and your people? He was like, I'm black. I was like, you are clearly not black, okay? You are black and white. And I think that you are more white than black. He was like, no, I'm black, man. I'm black. I'm mixed race. He says he's mixed race. He's not mixed race, right? Just because he's got black on him and white on him, that's not mixed race. He's pure panda, right? His parents were both pandas. He would be mixed race if his panda mother had had sex with a grizzly bear. So that's what's going on with the panda. Okay, let's keep going. Interesting. Young Max says, life bad, looks like I'm living in a Turkish house. What is a Turkish house look like, Young Max? I'm not sure what a Turkish house looks like. Maybe it's because I don't clean my kitchen as much as I should, but I quite like this flat. It's not a house, it's a flat. But okay, let's keep going. Next up, ladies and gentlemen, we go to, in the 1st century, going way back, there was a riot, right? This is probably the most comedic riot ever, because this is what is a mooning riot, right? So this happened in Passover, right? This was 1st century AD, and it began when Jews had gathered for a celebration at a temple in Jerusalem, and the Roman troops were standing guard over the ceremonies, right? They were yelling at each other, not very happy with each other, as often was the case with the Romans and the Jews. Now, one of the soldiers lifted up his robe and showed his bare buttocks to them as an insult, right? I did not know that this is a form of insult that has gone way back through the ages. But I guess, look, in that Braveheart movie, they were doing it. I thought that was fiction, but apparently this is a universal form of communication, probably way back in the times of the Neanderthals. One Neanderthal was angry with another Neanderthal and showed his displeasure by waving his buttocks at him. I think it transcends communication, transcends sign language. It is primitive, universal communication. So anyway, the Roman kind of mooned the Jewish people. They got very upset, right? And so they began yelling at them. They began lobbing stones at the Romans, which I gotta say, that is like a serious bad review on your buttocks, right? If you show someone your buttocks and they start throwing stones at you, you need to go to the gym, right? That is not a visually appealing buttock which you've got over there, right? So this is one of the most bizarre riots ever. It was the Mooning Riot, and I think it was also ground zero, the invention of twerking. Because this bare buttocked Roman soldier had people pelting stones at him, and he had to dodge them by bobbing up and down. Genesis of twerking. And then the third, ladies and gentlemen. Third and final one which I'm going to talk about is one which I find hilarious. Okay? I find it absolutely fascinating. And this was one which happened in 1979, the year I was born. And this is called the exploding disco riot. Exploding disco. So what happened is Chicago. In Chicago, there was a DJ who hated disco music, and he felt that it was a threat to rock and roll, which he loved. So, probably half tongue-in-cheek, half serious, invited to people to come join him for a party in a stadium where what they were going to do is they were going to blow up a bin full of disco records. But this is the mistake he said, right? He said, for every person that brought a disco record to the Disco Sucks demonstration, they would receive reduced entry. You can't offer people a deal, right? You can't offer people a deal. Yes, people are going to come out to demonstrations because of political agitation. But if people are coming out to a demonstration because they know they're saving money, you are going to get double the amount of people showing up, right? So way too many people showed up. He thought, what? Oh, it's going to be a little, maybe, 80 people are going to show up. We'll put these records in the bin. We'll light them up, and then we'll have a few drinks. It'll be a great little demonstration, like just a stunt because disco sucks. No, hordes of people showed up. Hordes of people showed up, right? And then, even after the gates had been closed, thousands more people, right, just kept coming into the ballpark, right? A lot of them had vinyl that had not been collected. They were very upset. They wanted theirs to be blown up too. And then it spiraled out of control because he blew up a pile of the albums. Then people rushed onto the field. Then police came. And trust me, it became absolutely absurd. I was just looking at pictures and stuff. It became an absolute absurd, non-political riot, and I just thought I should leave us on that one because it is very funny, because I don't know how much you hate a kind of music. What music would you blow up, right? I started thinking, what music would I blow up? I think the music I would blow up is heavy metal. I like most music. I cannot listen to heavy metal, and I would blow one up. I'd blow it up. I'm sorry, AC/DC. I think I'd stick you in the fire. Light it up. I think that's the one. I think that's the one from me. Oh, people are telling me, oh, Disco Riot was your favorite riot. Isn't it such a bizarre riot? It's wonderful. Oh, gosh. Robin Green asked me, what was the first adult 18 movie I saw at the cinema? I have no idea. Robin Green, I have no idea. Probably would have been in Canada because I was under 18 until I went to Canada. I have no memory whatsoever what it was, Robin Green. It's an interesting question. Probably something sci-fi or some action movie because that's what I'm into. Excellent. So, ladies and gentlemen, before I wrap this up, I do want to say, no, I had a few thoughts. About the riots that weren't necessarily funny, so I don't know if they need to be said, and they've been said much more eloquently than how I would say them. Because I was going to say that a lot of people talk about these riots and they criticize the people rioting and so on, but riots are a symptom of what's going on, right? It doesn't come out of nowhere. I guess that's what I was trying to say. And like Martin Luther King, he much more wise than I am, right? Now, first I want to put it in context. He said this in a speech where he was condemning violence and he was suggesting that it shouldn't happen because it's self-defeating, but he also said that riots are the language and voice of the unheard. And they happen when people are frustrated by things and they feel unheard, and it builds and builds and builds, and then someone lights a match and it becomes a conflagration. And that seems to be what's going on in the US and what could happen in other places where people are unheard and feel frustrated, and hopefully it shall calm down rapidly and shall lead to some actual change, which rarely ever happens. So thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much. And it's been a pleasure having you watch the Corona Cast comedy show. It's going to be here every night until I have live comedy shows back, which I am hoping will be maybe August, maybe July. No, probably August. I don't know how long this is going to be. I don't know how long I can keep going before I need to work at a grocery store or something. But I'm hoping by August I will be back. And please remember, I made you laugh when Corona was going on. And when you can come see me live, come see me live. Have a very great night. Any of you who are into Twitch, I'm going to be going onto twitch.tv/DeliSochaponda after this, probably in around 10 minutes, and I'm going to be playing a video game for around an hour or hour and a half. So if you have any questions, or you just want to hang out, just want to chat, feel free to stop by. There'll be no jokes, but there'll be gaming and any chit chat. It's been a pleasure. Have a good night.